All right, welcome back to Off the Tap. This week is episode 67, and we're doing Urban South Brewery's HTX Hazy Juicy IPA.
Ooh, you know what I realized? I mean, none of y'all see this ever, I don't think, but whenever we do the countdown, I always end with this, which is technically 11 and not one.
Or two.
Or two, I guess. At the bottom line is it's not one, so I'm a little misleading. Not that I would jump from two to two again or two to 11. You get the gist, obviously, but it
Yeah.
just dawned on me that
I also never look at you while we're doing it, so
that's probably for best. That's probably just good practice, to be honest with you.
yeah, yeah. Not out here
Otherwise,
doing that.
you would come out of the gates and go. Um, this week we have Urban's Alf Brewery HT Ippy Juicy. That's how you would roll
Iffy
it out.
juicy.
Ippy Juicy.
Ippy
Before we even,
juicy.
I know I said that I was gonna say this, but before we even crack the can, I do want to call out again. It's Urban South Brewery HTX Hazy Juicy IPA. And fundamentally for me, I don't know why, but I have a little bit of a beef before even cracking the can. I just feel like it should be a juicy hazy IPA. I don't
Rolls
know
off
if
the
one,
tongue a little bit better.
and I just feel like I don't know if juicy is a subgenre of IPAs that maybe we're just missing here, but like hazy IPAs are like their own thing. They're very well established. So like it should be juicy hazy IPA.
Yeah. I can kind of get behind that train.
Yeah.
I know that juicy IPAs are a thing.
I mean, for the record, I didn't need you to get on that train. I appreciate you coming aboard, but I didn't need you to be on that train. I was gonna just sell that one
Okay.
die hard from the beginning.
Well then
I
I'm
didn't need,
not getting on the
listen,
train. I'm gonna
listen,
get
I'm
off
not
now.
drawing no, I'm not drawing a
I'm
line in the
gonna
sand. I'm just
I'm
saying like
gonna
that's how
have the conductor take
comfortable
me back, bro. I don't want to be on
that's
here anymore.
that's how confident and like comfortable I was with defending my reasoning. But I'm glad that you're on board and that you support it. So I'm not crazy in my assumption.
Yeah. Well, we might both be crazy, but that's okay. We're crazy together on this one.
Crazy.
So this comes in at 6.2. I didn't get the online one on this one, so we just got this one off the can, so I know it's correct this week.
Yes. Um, Born in Houston, it's a soft hazy IPA that's brewed with juicy Citra and Strata hops. So that's
Mm,
what's promoting the juiciness that they um, put behind hazy
yeah.
uncomfortably for me before the
Another
IPA.
another little interesting tidbit about this place that I found was there is two locations, and I believe that the Houston location is the secondary location because when I looked it up, I looked up Urban South and it was New Orleans was like the main one, or not New Orleans, but maybe New, yeah, I think it was New Orleans actually. Was like the main one, and then it said Urban South Houston. Uh, so I think Houston is the secondary one.
So what's crazy is yeah, so there's an urban south that is in um yeah, it's off of Chapatula Street in New Orleans. And then there's the one that's here. I don't know if we could figure out which one is
Well,
first, but I
my assumption is that it was the New Orleans one was the first one
yeah,
because it seemed like they had like a secondary page for the Houston location.
I see.
But I
I
could be
see.
wrong. Maybe that's just because of how I typed it in. I don't know.
So did you actually end up getting okay, good. I'm glad so like I clicked on it just to see like the one in Louisiana, like I followed Google obviously led me to its website. That's the
Hmm.
convenience. But anyways, and the writing is the same. So it's confirmed that they are
Yeah.
tied together. I didn't want there to be two different urban souths. Also, we still ask this question like almost every freaking week. Why is it that we're validating our ages to get into these things? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a really dumb thing. I don't really understand it in the
What,
sense of like you're not gonna be able to purchase anything.
no, but what that question basically should say is, are you capable of reading? It shouldn't ask you your fucking age. It basically just proves, can you read? Because
Yeah.
anyone who's trying to gain access to the location is immediately going to go, yes, I can read. Therefore, I'm going to enter this website.
Yeah. There's a lot of sites
Um,
that do that. I mean, they do it the like,
well, I mean, for obvious reasons, some, certain websites, I would
Oh,
imagine.
well, yeah, but I mean more or less like the Zen website also asks you.
Ah,
All those like nicotine products ask you to. But see, those make sense to me because you can purchase nicotine stuff from their website. Whereas a lot of these breweries don't have a purchasing
one
aspect.
th- one thing I would call it. So again, if you're talking about branding, dude, everything is fucking killed. Like, did you on here on their website, at least the New Orleans one? So there's a counterpart to this. I don't think this is a seasonal. This is like a Houston staple for Urban South. But
Hmm.
the Louisiana-based one that's a hazy, juicy IPA, again, in my opinion, incorrectly verbaged, um, is the Holy Roller.
I wonder if it's the same beer
I wonder.
and
And
just
but dude,
rebranded.
one cool thing I'll call attention to, I know we're not doing it today, but their American lager is called Paradise Park. And if it does not scream Miami Vice, Grand Theft Auto, the can itself, it's got like a pink flamingo on it with the generic flag writing, and it's a green can. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, oh, it has the states where it's available. So they're getting into, I think that's Tennessee, Alabama, or Tennessee, Mississippi, and no, it is Tennessee, Alabama, Texas, and Louisiana. I don't know why they just said fuck Mississippi, but obviously they did.
Yeah. Screw that place.
I'm gonna be honest with you. That's a fairly Louisiana thing. I think would be to just
Screw
like screw
Mississippi.
screw Mississippi. So available. So Urban South Brewery, available in the bigger, better state, and also the little brother boot, which is pretty cool. I dig.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't think we've come across a small craft brewery that's had two locations like that. So
No, I think it's
it's
pretty
pretty
cool.
interesting. Yeah, it is pretty cool. It smells great.
Oh, I didn't crack it yet.
It smells like a hazy, juicy IPA, if I have to
Oh,
say so myself.
dude, I wonder how many
It also
backsplashes.
smells very much like it's gonna fill my tummy up.
It smells great in the can. I'm gonna do a little pour here, but I just thought about how many splashes from cracking cans that I've collected in this microphone
Oh yeah, and
windshield.
in that pop protector.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing's gonna smell horrible in a few months.
All right, dude. All
Well,
right. So
she's
I don't know if
hazy.
did you get a clip of the can? Are you gonna be able to provide a clip of the can? I don't know
Yes,
how.
I have one for this week, I believe.
Yeah. So it's hazy, but thick head that's starting to lighten up. But dude, she's hanging around. I think it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
great pour.
And I can tell that it's hot. Like it's gonna be hoppy, but I think it's gonna be like surprisingly fruity hoppy, not sourish,
Mm-hmm.
but ooh, I
Yeah,
don't.
not sour.
Did you take a sip yet?
Oh yeah,
Okay, okay,
I'm
don't
taking a couple
don't.
sips.
All right, because oh
I
man,
can't already
this
tell you. So I'm still having my stomach still being a little bit weird like it was last week. And or was it last week? Yeah, last week. And I can tell you this is gonna fill me up quick.
it is. Man. So here's the first impressions right off the tongue, right off the tip, the old tongue
Tip of the tongue, the
is
teeth, the lips.
so honestly very. I mean, I'm not saying this is gonna score it bad because it's an IPA, but very passive in the hoppiness.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not biting hard at all. And I don't know if that's because maybe the citrus is offsetting it, but I don't get a ton of citrus.
No, I do get the fruitiness though.
I do. I do get juiciness. So, I mean, honestly, maybe that's another. I'm not just trying to back into my justification here, but I think they should put juicy up front because that's what hits you first. The fact that it's juicy.
Mm-hmm.
It also is not drying me out like a regular IPA, and then the haziness in the IPA is an afterthought.
Well,
Not super.
typically hazy IPAs aren't as hoppy, to me at least.
I don't know, man.
They're not like super hop forward like a regular IPA or a double IPA for obvious reasons.
Um, Yeah, I don't know. I get a lot more of the juice than I get the hoppiness. But yeah, it is going to be filling, and I can already feel in the back of my mouth the alcohol.
Yeah, me too. Uh, this is, I believe, the second IPA that you and I have done on the podcast.
Yeah.
We did
Uh,
one a couple months ago, the Doc Hoppaday. But brings me to the question of what was your first IPA?
Man, so I want to say my first IPA was what's the is it Goose Island? What's the one over there?
Ooh,
You know
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
talking about?
You got me flustered on that one. I don't know what you're talking
All right,
about.
I'm actually gonna look it up. I mean, I can't be confident that what I look up is accurate if I didn't fucking know right off the top of my head. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's like a really popular one out. I might be wrong. It's a real popular one out like east, central east, in the United States. So,
Okay. Like
and
coastal
honestly,
or
no,
below
like
like
coast.
Michigan.
No, I think that would be the mid east. But yeah,
Okay.
the which I did say, but yeah, coastal
Yeah.
Mideast. You are correct. Ah, it was the Dogfish Head. I
Oh,
apologize.
yes. Yeah, I've had some Dogfish Head. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my it was a Dogfish Head IPA, and I think it was the 60-minute IPA. And
Dogfish
on
Head has some good stuff. We actually did their sour on the podcast back before you joined.
where are they out? I mean, I'm gonna look, but where are they out of? Because
Dude, beats me.
we're gonna look it up because I want to say it's like, listen, am I over 21? Can you fucking read? Yes. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm over
Um,
21, dude. I am.
brewery. Um,
Don't know exactly, but I do know that I see it a lot more places than like Dogfish Head is more less crafty. Like they do craft stuff, but like with the reach that they have, they're a lot less crafty to me. You know
so
what I mean? Like
we
they're in a lot of stores.
we did it in the so I didn't have an IPA until I like this is within the last 5 years. That's crazy to think of,
Oh,
isn't it?
wow.
Yeah. And honestly, I went there for work and there's this massive like tree house that's in front of the brewery. It's like this metal tree house thing, and that's where I drank a dogfish the IPA was in their little metal tree house.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's in Delaware.
Wow. So it's way
Yeah,
up there.
it is.
That's the
Um,
first IPA you had was like within five
yeah.
years.
And it's not that like I avoided them. It's just I don't think I came across like I just didn't come across them. It wasn't like a. I mean, it might. Yeah, it was probably like 5 years ago. Yeah,
That blows my mind.
yeah. And I'm not like I said. I mean, they're not my top choice. I'm not anti, but they're not my. I actually enjoy a lot of them. I like this one because I think it's mild enough. I don't like when people get crazy with them. They're like, this one's 13% and it tastes like a brick of fucking weed,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, it tastes like you're just eating the hops
Yeah.
instead of. No,
Yeah.
see, I so my first ever IPA was the Hopadillo
Yeah, I didn't have
from
a
Carbach,
hopadillo till
and
probably till after this.
it was a beer that I tried in it was all that we had. That's what I'll say.
Hmm.
It's all wherever I was, it was all that was available, and I was like, yeah, I'll try that. And I opened it and I took one sip and I was like, this is horrible, and I threw it away because at that point my beer experience was like Keystone and Bud Light and Coors. You know what I mean? It wasn't anything crazy, so did not like it at all. Now, I mean, I'm not a huge IPA guy. Like I enjoy them. I'll get one if I go somewhere, like to a brewery. I'll try one of their IPAs or something. But I'm not like going there and only drinking IPAs because there's, like I said, they fill me up, and like this one's going to. I know, and so I just can't drink a lot of them. I sit there and have one of them, and then I'm like, I need to take a break for a little bit. So stuffing down two of these in an episode is going to be rough. Anytime we do an IPA. But I will say that I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast as well. One of my favorite IPAs that I've had to this day, I tried on this podcast back when we first started it, and it's the Heavy Hands IPA out of Spindletap Brewery in Houston. It's a double IPA, and it's thick, it's hoppy, and when
Yeah.
I say it's thick, I don't mean like it's heavy, like it's like you can chew it. almost.
Like it's greasy,
Like it's
like it's
grainy.
oily.
It's grain. Like
Ah,
there's stuff in it.
like a mead, like an old school mead, like
Oh,
some
dude.
prison hooch or something.
And it's good. I love it. I don't know what it is, but I do. It's expensive, and I can't drink a lot of them in one sitting, but I do enjoy them quite often.
I think honestly, for me to get the most, I want to make two comments about IPA. First off, I think this one, I know that you're like saying it's full and like it's going to be filling and stuff. This to me would be a casual drinking IPA. I can tell you right now.
This one,
I
yeah,
could, if I would have like, this is gonna sound terrible, but like if I skip a meal or something, and I'm doing some day drinking, you know what I
yeah,
mean? I could do easily six of these at lunch. Like I feel like that's how light and approachable it is for an IPA and refreshing enough. Like I said, I don't have that dehydrated suck from my palate feel, maybe because of the juiciness. Now, it's probably under the false narrative of like this is gonna dehydrate the shit out of me and I'm not paying attention to it. But I could do a bunch of these back to back. Like this could be a day drink. Like I don't want to give away my WWYBD, but this could be like a day drink thing where I could consume a lot of them. However, back to my original point that I was going to make. When you talk about, the double IPA and how it was delicious, spindle top, right?
Spindle Tap, yeah,
Spindle tap top. We already went down that road, but
yeah,
spindle
yeah.
tap. Um, but I think there's something cool about that because when I drink it, like if I drink an IPA, I'm fulfilled after like one or two. Like, and I don't mean like by the way that it tastes, but like I don't want another beer. Like I had the two and I enjoyed it and like I'm done with it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Whereas like I feel like if I'm drinking like Heineken or something, I'm like, yeah, I better put a 12 pack in so that I enjoy myself or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's also because the alcohol percentage is so much higher in an IPA typically, and so you drink one or two of them, you're like, man, I'm probably good, you know?
Yeah.
Or you go, wow, I'm having a great time. I need more. It's one of those two, and usually the second option doesn't turn out great when you keep pressing.
When you force yourself through. I will say that, like, I guess also maybe I don't think I've ever had a night of the same IPAs. That's why I feel like shit in the morning. Because normally, if when you go out on an adventure and you're having some IPAs with the boys, in their sweaters and puffy jackets and Cole Haans with tight. I was just trying to like build a facade of people with like craft beards, but they're wearing sweater vests and it's fucking August.
Yeah,
Anyways, when you go out like and you're gonna do a bunch of them, you're doing some IPA exploring. You never drink one and stick with that one. It's always a mix mash. That's why you feel
you're
like
switching
shit in the
them up
morning.
all the time, switching them
Yeah,
up all the time because you got to try them all. I can
mm,
agree with that. I can definitely agree with that. It's not always a great experience. That's probably also why I can't drink a lot of them because I do that as well.
yeah. So I think
Really
this
messes up
one,
the gut.
if I were to stick with it, dude, it even stays beautiful. Like I love after the head dissipated, you got the suds in the bucket. I don't know what that's actually called, but that's what I always call it. The suds in the bucket on the side of the glass, so there's some residual. Stays hazy, not a lot of settling.
Yeah,
I think it's nice.
it's almost like that froth that gets on like on a pond, you know?
hmm
That
I
like
I
that.
thought you were gonna I thought you were gonna use the boat ramp example. You know how there's always like that kind of stagnant foam that's
Yeah,
around a boat ramp?
that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that from fish? Like, what is that from?
Yeah, bro. I think it's just there's like like a slime that gets in the water that somehow entraps air as like there's commotion in the water.
That's delicious. That sounds great.
Yeah, well, that's when like it's bad in that example. It's disgusting, but in an IPA and the way that it traps air in your glass, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, you
You're
want
looking
that
for
slime.
nasty interstate Texas lake system water. That's what you're looking for.
Water slime.
Water slime.
Water slime bubbles.
Also, I don't remember who I was having a conversation with the other day, but we were talking about he was like I don't remember who it was, but he was like, "Oh, I don't go in that lake because I can't see the bottom." And then it dawned on me, like just where we grew up, and pretty much almost all lakes in Texas, like see the bottom, motherfucker. You can't see your hand when it's under the water.
You can't see your hand when you barely put it under the water.
That's what I'm saying.
Not even like at your hip, like just
No,
under the water at all.
Bro, so it was just weird to me that like people were like, "Oh, I don't get in that because I can't see the bottom." And then again, I thought about it and I was like, I have swam in more things where I can't see the bottom, like only pools growing up that we see the bottom in.
And even then,
Yeah, even then,
sometimes it got shady. Mm,
seasonally, it's gonna get a little green and slippery. You know what I mean?
yeah, you gotta be careful. Gotta be careful.
I don't know. It was just crazy to me because even in our like, obviously Galveston, even in our waters here are terrible. Which,
Oh yeah.
okay, I don't want to say terrible, but less than subpar for those that want to see the bottom where they're swimming.
I
My other
mean, they're
part to this,
gas infected.
well,
Every
yeah.
lake.
The other thing is that you're right. The other thing is this, like I can't remember who it was, but his argument was this. He's like, "Yeah, I want to be able to see like if there's like fish that are going to come get to me or like sharks or whatever." And like my argument back was like, "Bro, just cuz you see it doesn't mean like if it's going to get you, it's going to outswim your ass, right? It's going to get
Yeah.
to you. Seeing it, so what are you just not going to get in the water? Like it doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah. It's
Feel
only
like
gonna give you time to notice you're gonna die.
Yeah, I feel like seeing the bottom is an advantage equally for the fish,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Probably even more so for the fish.
Yeah, like, oh, just because you can see him, he can definitely see your ass. But if it's muddy as shit, he's like, what the hell is that? I'm not going over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Thought I
I
would
never
call that out.
I never thought I saw a thing the other day and it said shark infested waters. You mean their home?
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, that
Good
is
God.
so true. Oh my god. We're just out here fucking hating on the sharks for being in their fucking home, dude. Like, what if somebody walked into your house and they were like, human infested house? What
Yeah.
the fuck is this?
You guys aren't going to believe this, but I went to a circus and it was just running rampant with clowns. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
I fucking hate clowns. Like, why did they have clowns here?
Yeah, I'm never going back. That was a terrible idea. Like,
Yeah,
what?
well, that was your choice, brother. That's true. I went to the zoo one time, bro. I'm terrified of elephants, and there was just elephants everywhere.
It's just that is so hilarious. I guess I didn't think about that. I think sometimes headlines are written with the intent of being accurate, and in fact they're more accurate than they actually are.
Yeah.
Um, so that brings me to the good question. As we think about waterways in Texas, as we think about everything else, like what to you? Because this is the HTX, and this is
Hmm.
our city bound Hazy Juicy IPA. We'll fucking worry about the order later. What to you screams H Town? Like if you're communicating, okay, I want to give you two examples of how to explain this. What to you, if there's somebody else that's from this area, like we could automatically immediately agree, and I want to put you on the spot. You could automatically agree, like, oh, that's Houston, that's H Town. Or if you're talking to somebody from like somewhere else, whether it's a different state, whether it's way further out in Texas that maybe isn't familiar with Houston, like what also screams H Town? Like what makes it H Town?
Okay. So if I was talking to somebody that was from Houston, right? I think it's, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of these things, but
Yeah.
it's those specific rims, bro. You know what I'm talking about? With like the spike on the end of them.
Like the 100 spoke Dayton's?
I don't
What you
know. I
talking about?
don't. They're they kind of like poke out, right? They like come out of the tire, and there's like blades on the end of them almost.
Blades.
Is that what they're called? Blades?
I mean, I think should we take it back to Fat Pat? Wanna
They're
be a
just
baller?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those are
Exactly.
blades.
All in the freaking, I mean, they're in like every Houston rap video you can fucking imagine, right? But every time that I see them anywhere out in the wild, I'm like, that guy's from Houston or that person's from Houston.
Okay, so if we're talking, I don't want to cut you off. I want you to finish. But if we're talking cars, this is not what I think makes Houston, what I would explain Houston to. But I had this conversation with somebody else too that was from like out of state. And I was like, they were explaining a situation to me. And I was like, oh, what did he have like some candy coat on there? And they were like, what the fuck is candy coat? And I was like,
What?
it looks like a candy, like it's candy coated. She was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And I'm like, candy coated? Like candy coated. You
Don't
know what
know
I'm talking about?
candy?
paint dripping off of it. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
candy coated. And they're like, no, that's not a thing. And I was like, oh, it's definitely a thing. But anyway, so I'll give you that. You're talking blades, and I would give candy coat in there, and that's if you're talking to somebody from the city.
Mm-hmm.
That's one approach to explain it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other, I would say, man, like this kind of brings me to a question that I have for you, right? Because I would
Yep.
say if I was talking to somebody else outside, I would think space,
Oh yeah. Like
NASA,
NASA.
right?
NASA. Yeah.
H Town, Houston, we have a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like that I feel like is the most uh talked or not talked about thing, but like that's the most Houston thing you can think of talking to somebody outside from not from Houston, right? But it does bring me to a good point of like Houston and space or like Houston and the rodeo.
So that's another thing that's very difficult to explain to people because there are a lot of state fairs that are huge, and in fact, drastically bigger than I think the ones in Texas. Um, but I was in Iowa recently, and Iowa has a massive one. I know Minnesota has a massive one that probably outpaced the Texas State Fair. But like to explain to somebody the sheer volume of people and money that flows through the city during that, 2 week, 2.5 week stretch of the rodeo is mind boggling. First off, a lot of places are like a rodeo. People are like going to that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's not like a little amount of people either. It's a shitload
Oh
of
yeah,
people.
it's a lot of people
Number
travel from all over to come here.
And like they go, oh, shitload of people. So like a couple thousand people. And I'm like, nah, like millions of people are going to go to
Yeah.
this fucker. Okay. And then also, so that's one thing that's hard, very confusing. The second thing is just like explaining to them that like it is the world's biggest, I don't want to say world's, but I think it is. I think it's the world's biggest rodeo.
I think so. It's either like this one or the one that's in Arizona or something.
No, 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 dude. I would say Brazil, bro. Brazil don't play
Oh yeah,
around.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
I mean,
true.
there's some crazy rodeos down there, but yeah, I think it's like so. At least in the states, like it's mind-boggling. And of course, then it carries the stereotype of us being Texans. Like, yes, that's a very Texan thing to do. Everything's
Right.
bigger, whatever. But I'm just like, no, no, no. It like I and you and I joke a little bit, but I would venture to say, and we still didn't get the damn numbers on this yet, but I would venture to say that in that 12-day stretch, 14-day stretch, that is what we know in one form or another, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, they make more money than all of the other fucking events combined throughout the entire year, hands down,
Yeah.
including
They
the
have to.
Texans season.
Yeah, they have to. And any
Yeah.
concerts that happen there.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to fill T Swift at that bitch probably 10 days, 15 days in a row to equal rodeo money. Not even to just half of rodeo money.
Yeah. Because of everything else that goes on at the rodeo. Like not just
Yeah.
the concerts, it's just everything outside, everything inside. Yeah, I agree. But that's I mean, that's my valid point, right? Is like
Yeah.
maybe that's more of like something you would tell to somebody that lives in Houston, right? You'd be like rodeo, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But from an outsider perspective, I think if you were like trying to talk about Houston, you'd be like, yeah, like NASA,
Yeah.
space.
You're right.
You
You're
know what I
right.
mean? So I think those would probably be my two. It'd be those rims, the blades for the natives, because we all know them. We see them all the time. We're sketched out by driving by them because we don't want to slice our tires up.
The Chappas. Yeah.
And then outside perspective, I'd go space
Yeah, I guess I'd throw space also has like Alabama, NASA has a big hub in
or
Alabama and then
Florida.
also Florida, which is also crazy to me to think that like Alabama, again, based on stereotypes here, I just wouldn't have thought, Florida, Alabama, and Texas. That's where all that shit went down. I just feel like at some point they asked a group full of rednecks, they were like, hey, we got to go to the moon. They're like, yeah, we can get there.
Yeah,
Just gives like that's a
I
that in itself is a drunk fucking thought. Somebody was like, "Hey, we can go to the moon," and they asked probably some very highly educated people from like Chicago and New York, and they're like, "You guys are crazy." They came to the South. They were like, "Hey, we need to get to the moon." They were like, "If you give me 6 months, I can get it figured out." Like
I
fucking didn't
can
even care.
you supply the oil?
Yeah, who's paying for that? I ain't paying for that.
I'll do it, but I ain't paying no my money for it.
I ain't doing it. And there, I swear, I bet you that's how it went down. They were just like, "Bet you won't, bitch," and we were like, "No, I think we actually can."
Yeah, no, we can do this.
Yeah. They started making it was like a phone tree back in the Gap when like that's how news spread. They were just like, "Hey, you remember that? Who's that guy that used to go down to that washateria? That was a smart motherfucker. What was that dude's name?" And they were like, "Oh, Jerry Ed. Yeah, I'll call Jerry Ed. He'll be over there in a second." Next thing you know, you got a bunch of people just sidewalk chalking all these formulas and shit. We got people headed to the moon.
Yeah,
That's how I feel like it went down. Obviously, that's not true, but
probably a little bit.
um, so what I think H Town, I think internal, I think the way we talk about traffic systems, I think the feeder that's only in Houston
Yeah,
for those
that
outside
blew
of
my
Houston that
mind.
might be listening.
That blew my
It's a
mind.
service road to everyone else. To us, it's feeder. Yeah,
Yeah,
blows your mind,
because
didn't
because growing up, that's what we call it.
it?
In
Yeah,
fact, that's what we call it in driving school.
just jump on the feeder.
Just jump on the feeder and go down, but it's the service road. Yeah,
Nope, straight up. That's H Town, and then the loop systems, right? Oh, it's interloop. Nah, we ain't heading over there. I
yeah,
don't care. I mean, I might go to his house during the day or something like that, but I ain't
yeah,
going at night. That right? Um,
yeah,
and then the fact that we make fun of like I make fun of Sugarland all the time, just because it's easy. Those kind of things I would say are what I think when I think of like people from here. Be someone. You can throw out the iconic graffitis, right?
yeah. To be someone.
um, Guns Point Mall, right? Things like that
Yeah,
is what I think when they're from here that gives you the heads up that like,
Kirk,
oh, they know the city kind of thing. What?
Kirkendall.
Yeah, Kirkendall, you know,
Yeah,
yeah, things like that.
yeah,
Paul
stuff like
Wall.
that.
Anyway, all those things, and then
Grills.
if they're from outside the city, then I usually go with like I have done NASA too. I've done I do use the rodeo a lot. I also a lot of times talk about the medical center,
Yeah,
right? Because especially for cancer treatments, that downtown area, the children's hospital, like there
that's a
more
good
people
point.
than we would think. Like we kind of get blessed with it because it's here when we need it, but like there are people from all the fuck over that come here for it as a resource and like relocate
Oh,
their
dude.
lives, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I was in the hospital for all my stuff, I met so many people at rehab there because it's like the second best rehab facility in the United States. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I'm blessed enough where it's an hour from me, but like there was people literally driving because they couldn't fly at the time, driving from like Michigan and like Florida and I mean some closer from like Louisiana and stuff, but still that's like 6, 7 hours,
Yeah.
and they were, parents would have to stay or significant other would have to stay back home and they're just here by themselves. And I'm just like, dude, but it's because the medical center is so great here. And then, yeah, not to mention cancer. I mean, we're like the cancer capital of the world, I think.
You mean in treatment
Yes, yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
both?
No, and treatment. Like
I
it is
gotcha.
the cancer center, I think. I think somewhere else in the world might have another pretty good one, but I'm pretty sure in Houston it's like the top rated
I
cancer
believe so
treatment.
because unfortunately, along just the history of living in different places and just having friends from all over. And again, we're saying like the immediate, I'm talking like Kansas, Oklahoma, still the South, Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, maybe over to Alabama. Like we've had friends from everywhere that they do go to the city, like go to Houston for their treatment. But it's like a not even a thought. It's like, oh, you want the best, then like you start in Houston. If you can't get in Houston, you can find something else. But like Houston's where you start.
Yeah,
Um, but
that
yeah,
is
that was
true. I always forget that the medical center is so crazy here. Kind of just like you said, because we just grew up with it. So it's
yeah, we
like the
do.
norm for us.
Yeah, so for we don't think about it. I do that with a lot of things when it comes to Houston because again, I know this is very disrespectful and this is going to get me into my next question. This is a good segue. This is very disrespectful to Houston. But like I love all of the things that Houston has to provide. Like first off, I know that this is going to be fighting words for a lot of other folks, and I will respect what other cities have going on. But like, no one hold, in my opinion, in Texas, no one holds a candle to the volume, like the range of cuisine and the quality of the cuisine amongst the range. Okay, so like, yeah, you might find everybody's always like, where's the best tacos, right? Like, you can get good tacos, I shit you not, in any city in Texas. I truly believe that. But I feel
Yep.
like the range of tacos, from like, if there was like a gradual increase of like real Mexican tacos, right? Some real good shit, into like Texas street tacos, and then you migrate into Tex-Mex, there is going to be a top two contender in every single one of those categories in the city of Houston. I don't give a shit about San
Yeah.
Antonio. I don't give a shit about out west. They're going to have contenders, but Houston's going to have one or two in the top of each of those variations amongst that category. And that's just for tacos. That's not talking about Asian cuisine. That's not what
Mm-hmm.
we're fucking slamming in. Like, there's so much. In fact, I used to think it was bold. I think it's Hobby Airport. It might be IAH too as well. But in Hobby Airport, when you come off the plane and you're headed down to baggage claim, it says the culinary capital of the South. And I thought, listen, I'm a fellow Texan, I'm a fellow Houstonian, but like, that's bold as shit to say. But it's true. It is. It
It
genuinely
is.
is. We get the benefit of the bleed over of Louisiana
Uh
cuisine,
huh.
which I don't think you find a little bit further out. We have like mm, might offend some people, but we have like that real, like, trashy, like East Texas influence that we got going on with us too,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
Yeah.
we've got all the Tex-Mex, we've got, like I said, the Asian, we've got a lot of Indian cuisine, if you're into that. So like, I think there's a lot of things that I don't give Houston credit for that I should, because comparatively to me, it's not a flashy city. We have shit like that is phenomenal, and we have really great
Yeah.
medical downtown. But if you look at, if you were to really snap an aerial photograph of a time lapse day of Houston versus Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, the ugliest of all of them is going to be Houston,
Yeah.
right? What's here and what's available and what's fun and like all that stuff taken out of the picture. Physically, as an entity, Houston is not as flashy and, I would say, clean and classy and put together, I guess, as some of the other cities, right? Because there's just a bunch of stuff going on. But from a food perspective, from a medical perspective, it has, in my opinion, 10 times more going on. Plus, it's a massive city. I mean, it's like the third largest city or whatever in the US at this point,
Yeah.
or fourth or whatever. But, anyway, so that I say all that to say this. Like, I usually always don't give Houston enough credit, but like, food wise, medical wise, it's great. But in your opinion, if you look at Texas as a whole as a stereotype, okay. Oh, you ride your horses to school and you eat your tacos and you've got these massive hats and your hair's big, whatever. All of those things. What metroplex, or it could be a specific city, but what metroplex or specific city, in your opinion, encapsulates what everybody thinks stereotypically of Texas?
Metro, like a large city.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be a large city. It could be a smaller city too, but I kind of think of Texas broken up into metroplexes, right? So, you got the Dallas, the Austin, the San Antonio, and then like West Texas as a whole. I guess El Paso you can put in there, but like West Texas, and then Amarillo, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and Houston. But you could pick any city. I just think of
I've
kind of the metroplexes.
so I've never been to Austin, so
Okay.
I can't give a opinion on Austin.
Well, I'll help you out here. Austin is not the
No.
answer. Okay,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah.
To me, I mean, if we're gonna go like what do other people think Texas is,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it has to be San Antonio, right?
Yeah, okay. And
Because
so
like it's the most like like when you see Texas in like all Western movies and stuff, that's I mean not obviously not with like all the infrastructure, but like the scenery, like that's what it is. You know what I mean?
I would agree. It has, so I kind of
Plus the
toe the
Alamo.
line. I go, well, I mean, I thought about it twice since
Yeah,
we've been on the
really
call.
yeah, yeah,
But
always.
I I thought, I think that because there is variation in, so Houston's flat, you know,
Yeah.
damp, bayou-ish. But like San Antonio has some variation to its landscape. It's got the Tex-Mex piece, it's got the Alamo, it has other cultural parts of the city. So I do think it is the just if somebody were to drop a pin and it landed in San Antonio, they would show up and be like, "Yep, this is Texas." You know what I mean? Like that's what I
Yeah.
get from that. But I would say that Fort Worth slash Amarillo kind of make a little bit of an argument for that too. Not quite as much as San Antonio, I think, because of the Mexican American and Mexican influence from our history. But yeah, that's basically where I was going to land too. I'm
Yeah.
glad that we thought the same. I think a lot of people would agree that, even if they're tried and true downtown H-towners, they'd be like, "Oh, nah, San Antonio's the cliche but accurate cliche of Texas."
Yeah. I also love San Antonio. I've only been there
I
a
do too.
handful of times, but I love
I
it.
love it.
It's
I
just a
do
cool
love it.
place. And
It gives.
if I were to like move anywhere else in Texas, it would be there
I don't. You know that
or
I
near
agree.
there.
Um, I do agree because it's close enough to hit. I don't like. I mean, nothing against Texas, but I don't like when you get further west of 35 than San Antonio. Because, bro, there's a gap of space out there where you're just like,
It's
what
just
the
nothing.
fuck? Yeah,
There's
dude. And
just
there's not even like
nothing out there.
no trees and shit. Like,
No,
nah.
it's just open plain.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not into like it's flat enough here, and at least we got city shit and like people and
It's like
trees.
it's just like 400 miles of plain until you get to the mountains of El Paso.
Yeah.
And then you're in El Paso for like 10 minutes and then you're in New Mexico.
So I think that's the farthest I would go that direction, but I do love San Antonio a lot. But yeah, I don't. Here's the thing that I do find like, I mean, everybody's going to be proud of where they're from. Most Texans are proud of being from Texas, even if they hate it and they get out for some reason. And most people are proud of the city that they come from. I find that being from San Antonio is a little bit of a mixed bag. I find that there's a lot of San Antonians that I find in other parts of the state, um, and they don't love parts of like let's be honest, Houston smells. Houston's not the prettiest. Yeah, we got all the things I
Streets
just
suck.
said. But like everybody is get proud to be from H Town when they get out of the city. You know what I'm saying? I think
Hmm.
San Antonio has a lower percentage of people that are super proud to be from there once they relocate.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I think it seems like an awesome city.
You said they're not proud to be from there?
Yeah, they're not as proud,
Oh.
I find. Yeah, it's crazy. But only the ones that like the ones that stay in the city and like went away and came back, like yeah, they're just like the rest of us Texans that are proud of the city they came from. But the ones that like get out and leave don't stay as proud as like some like a Houston
Well,
transplant that lives
I
in
mean,
Boston.
but I mean, like, if you get out to get out, then yeah, it's because you don't like the
I mean,
place.
maybe so. Maybe
But
so.
like, if you're forced out, then you know it's a little bit different. I feel like most people that leave Houston are like forced out for jobs or whatever. Or I'll tell you what, man.
Hurricanes.
Well, yeah, that too. But this heat is about to push me over my limit, bro.
Yeah, but see, I don't
I'm about tired of Texas with this heat, brother.
everything's dying. It's crazy. I would say, but like San Antonio's heat's a little different. They deal with extreme temperatures too. I'm not gonna give the stereotypical. It's the humidity that gets you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give you that.
Well, it kind of is though.
It is, but I mean San
Until
Antonio, dude.
until
You'll be
you.
triple digits with a one in the second place, like in the second slot holder. I mean it'll
Oh
be
yeah, no, it's
110,
hot.
115.
Yeah, when you get to like that levels of heat, the humidity doesn't really matter. But like if we're talking 92 with like humidity, like
Oh yeah.
60% humidity, that's miserable. It's horrible.
No, it is, and so, but it does. That's what blows my mind. It varies pretty drastically because think about Houston as a whole. We know we're kind of in that little armpit of an area, but 92 degrees at 90%, 99% humidity. It's going to be miserable. San Antonio is only like 3 hours away,
Oh, dude,
and it
you
dries
want to
up a ton.
you want to talk about crazy
Yeah,
temperature difference? So when we were driving to San Diego, right?
yeah,
We would always drive through Yuma, Arizona, right there on the border of Arizona and California, right?
hmm
And then 3 hours west of there is Alpine, California,
Yeah.
up in the mountains, right? In Yuma, Arizona, it was 117 degrees. We left in tank tops, shorts, and flip flops.
Yeah.
Okay? We got to Alpine, California. It was 62 degrees. It was almost a 70-degree difference.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously it's not that extreme because from Houston to San Antonio, there's not all this topographical. You're not hitting
No, I
Like, yeah,
know,
you're
but
getting into
it's
hills, but
crazy though.
it's the same way with, I mean, with Dallas people. I mean, it's when it's hot up there, it's hot up there, but the cold, I feel like the cooler months impact the Dallas area and the northern
Well, yeah,
DFW
they actually
metroplex.
get snow.
Yeah, and they have seasonal changes. I mean, it's hot, but when it's cold, it's cool. Whereas here, it's like realistically, and this is no exaggeration. What would you say? 3 weeks out of the year, maybe it's unbearable. Like, I don't know, unbearably cold. It's like 38, but
Yeah.
nonetheless,
We
like
get like 1 or 2 days where it's below freezing in the entire year.
exactly. So we have like a 3.5 week stretch where I would
And
say it's cold for a
and that's
period of time.
and that's like below freezing in the morning, not even during the day with the
Below
sun,
freezing, we mean 31 degrees
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
little
like
bit.
30 minimum
But
or
all jokes
maximum.
aside, I mean, I think it's like a 4 week stretch where I would say we have an actual winter. Other than that, we have passing cool
Summer.
fronts that would
No,
well, I
it's
would yeah,
it's
summer,
it's
but
11 months of summer, 2 weeks of 2 weeks of like cool fronts that come in that keep it at like 70,
four
nice and
days of
chill.
winter.
4 days of freezing cold winter, and then the rest is like a toss up. It just depends on if a hurricane hits or not, you know?
But as we proved a couple of years ago, that 4 days really fucks shit up. And not
Yeah.
just for us, for the world, unfortunately.
Like I'm telling you, I feel like some people think I'm exaggerating a little bit when I tell them this because I have a lot of friends in different states, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling them this, and I'm like, dude, you don't understand. It was because they're complaining about heat, right? Like the
Yeah.
90s and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's hot. But dude, you don't understand. In June here, it was 103 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay, like I understand Arizona gets hot, but like this was miserable because it's
And
103 degrees with like 56% humidity. So it's like
and
a
I would
feels like
imagine
of 117, 116.
also too, what always gets me is like, dude, when and you know, like even when we were growing up, right? If like June hits hard and heavy, like let's say by the late June it's 103 degrees, immediately I'm like, fuck, August, people are gonna be. It's sad to say, but like people are gonna die
It was
in August.
108 degrees today with a feels like of 115.
That's what I'm saying. August, and that's what people don't understand. Like, if June, they're like, "Oh, midsummer, the kids are out. You're hitting the lake or whatever." If it's
No.
rowdy, if it's that rowdy in June and July, dude, this right now is the 3 o'clock of the year because that is the hottest
It's
fucking part of the
horrible.
day. That 2:30 ish, 3 o'clock is
Yeah.
always the hottest part of the day. August is the 2:30 of the year. It's just
Dude,
miserable.
it's horrible. Like you said, I mean, people are gonna legitimately die from it, first of all.
Yeah.
And then also, like, not even kidding, people's cars melt, dude. Like like your tires melt. Your like
Yeah.
actual car, like there. I remember that a few couple years ago, or maybe it was last year. There was like Teslas in Arizona that were literally melting, like the dashboards were melting because they were too hot. That shit happens in Texas to like just regular cars.
It's also scary to think about a little bit. Like it wasn't this year, but it was a couple of years ago. We were like up at the like deer leash running around filling up feeders and doing different things. And like imagine this now. When you leave your phone in the car, like yeah, you leave it on the dashboard, it's going to get hot. I was wearing it on my person. It was in my pocket on my person. And I was like, let me pull it out to check the time. And it was like, nah, bruh, it's fucking too hot. You got to
Dude.
remove this to a cooler area. And I'm like, it's in my pocket, on my pants.
Yeah.
How could it be that hot? And
No,
that's
I
how it was.
so like that's how when you plug your phone in and it gets too hot, it'll say like phone will resume charging whenever it gets to a cooler temperature.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm charging my phone on my chair on my tray
Yeah.
in the van, we'll be in the van for like 10 minutes, and my phone goes, "We got to cool down
Nope.
before I can keep charging. I can't do this." It's like I mean, that's about the same way I feel when I just like walk outside the front door, right? I walk outside and I'm like, "Nope, I'm good. I'm sweating
Dude,
already." My phone does
it
the same thing.
it's so funny that you say that. Like, do you remember back in the day? This was pre iPhones, but back in the day when you had a phone and you would pull the battery out, there was that little sticker they would put in there, and when it got wet, it would be red. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So all bullshit aside, I had it wasn't my first, but it was probably. I mean, it was a Nokia, so it was probably like my first or second phone, and I had it in the fucking shirt pocket. Okay, in my shirt pocket all day long when I'm cutting grass. Okay, I get home, my phone is
Yeah.
not working. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why is my phone not working? And so I open it up and like my phone's not working. So I use something else. I call dad. I'm like, hey, my phone's not working. He's like, well, what happened to it? I'm like, I don't know. I had it in my pocket. It's just not working. It's screwed up. And he's like, all right, well, we'll take it. We'll swap it in or whatever. It's insured because this is back when people were. I guess people still insure them, but like we were insuring them back then. And so I go in and I flip she immediately, dude, because that's what they would do when you were insurance filing it, bro. If it's wet, that ain't our problem. You heard? So
Yeah.
she pulls that battery out, sees that red dot. And she's like, well, you got it wet. And I was like, bullshit, bitch. I've had this phone for like 3 weeks. I've literally had it on my person every single time. So I start doing the math, bro. It sat in that pocket
It's,
soaking wet just from my shirt over a 3 day period of it being like wringable, like dripping off of you soaking wet.
oh
Like the
my
pocket would
God.
collect fluid. And that's what it sat in. The battery sat in my sweat, collected in the pocket of this front shirt. And that's when it dawned on me that, like, that's kind of unhealthy a little bit, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
And I
It's
had to end up buying a new phone. And from then on, I kept it in either a southern region pocket, which by the way gets almost as wet, if I'm going to be honest with you. So sometimes had to tuck it underneath the towel, underneath the console in the
yeah.
truck. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the
I'll be
freaking
honest with you
screen
though,
would melt.
that doesn't seem like a valid reason for a Nokia to stop working. That's all I'm gonna say.
Actually, as
Okay.
I finished the story, I think it was this. I went from a Nokia to a Samsung. I think it was my
Oh, okay.
first Samsung.
Surprised it didn't catch on fire. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have gotten to that point in the podcast where we got to get into the WWYBDs here. You seemed like you had one earlier. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, so this is mine. It's very rare for an IPA to be this drinkable, and I'm not just tooting Urban South's horn. I think the way that it's built with the juiciness, with the light passive hops, I could drink a lot of these, which is good because you want an IPA that you can do that with. I'm gonna drink this in. I don't know how to explain it. I called it a trade show, but it's not really a trade show. Like that fall festival bazaar kind of thing. I'm gonna
Mm,
call it a bazaar, right? But like it's fall festival. Like people are going to downtown Conroe, people are going to downtown smaller areas. You're walking the town square. They got all the pop-ups out there. They're selling their crafts. You're getting funnel cakes and shit like that, and sloppy joes and barbecue plates and stuff like that. This is what I'm gonna drink in that fall transition when I go to that event because I can drink them all day during the day. It's cool, so I'm not overwhelmed, but I get massive flavor to accompany all of the goods that I'm buying from local vendors.
mm.
That's my WWIBD.
I agree with you on the fall thing.
Yeah.
Because for me, this is a Sunday boys' day in the garage watching football, chilling IPA. That's what this is. I know that was short and sweet, but that's what it is.
This is a fall football IPA.
Yeah,
Sweet.
fall football with the boys in the garage specifically.
Does it matter if it's NFL or if it's NCAA?
Well, I said Sunday, but now that you mentioned college, yeah, it's definitely a college football.
I
I
feel like
think.
this would be more when I think NFL. I'm already maybe kind of exhausted because I've had my NCAA fill, and so I'm just drinking generic beers. Then I feel like college is when I dedicate to something with a little bit of flavor.
Yeah. Well, that's also
Does that
just
seem weird?
because college, baby.
Yeah, I
Because
feel you
everybody likes the craft stuff in college, I guess, right?
for sure.
All right, we got to get into the ratings now. Would you like to go first this week?
Yeah, we're gonna have to rapid fire, I think, but I will go first. So entry, I have a 5.
Mm.
Um, Aftertaste, I have a 4. Only not because like it degrades terribly. I know we make that comparison week over week. If it's a good beer, it should stay at where it starts. Um, I just think that I taste a lot more and I have a lot more initial flavor than it finishes with. So it does drop off to a 4 for aftertaste. Body, I have a 4. I think it could be a little thicker. Maybe that comes with more hoppiness that we're not getting through this one, but a little bit thicker, a little bit more of a stick to your mouth, stick to your um, not to the roof of your mouth, but I would say, but stick to your tongue. So I got it at a 4. Color, I have it at a 5. I bet you there's one better. Like in my mind, that's what I said. I was like, this is fucking beautiful, but I bet you there's one better. So I have it at a 5. Bitterness, I have it at a 5. That's a little bit of a cheat on me. I'm sure people that are really, really die hard into IPAs are going to be like, no, it needs to be a 3 or it needs to be a 2 because it doesn't have the bitterness. This is where I want it to be. So it's a 5 in my book. Go fuck yourself. 4 is for acidity. I think it could have a little more based on its bitterness. And then fizz, I have it a 5. Filled the cup. We had suds in the bucket
Mm.
after a couple of glasses. Filled the cup. I had a couple of burps, but I don't historically burp a lot with IPAs. I don't know if that's a thing. But I had enough healthy burps. I had enough good head that was able to, filter the beer through before I consumed it. So that brings my total count to a 32.
Okay. Wow, we were pretty close on this. For entry, I have a 5 as well. I think it goes in really smooth. It's really, really nice flavor with the juiciness. Aftertaste, I did have it a 5, but I'm not gonna lie, you kind of swayed me on your
Ah,
thing.
okay. Well, let's keep that in the back of our minds when we total up people. Just,
Yeah.
I get it.
Um.
I have a
Oh
tendency to be compelling.
no. Well, just because I agreed with what you said, I was like, yeah, because I had it at a 5 as well, and I was like, there is a little bit of a drop off,
There's a
right?
change.
And so
Yeah.
I couldn't. Also, like the past 4 weeks, I've kept the entry and aftertaste the same on all these
Mm,
beers. So I was like, this is not the same as it finishes, but it's not worse than a 4. So I can't go any lower.
gotcha.
Body, I have it a 5 as well. I think it's great
Oh, I had it
flavor.
at a 4, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's great flavor all around. Color, I have it at a 5 as well, and basically just the same thought process that you,
Yeah.
because I was like, there has to be
There's
one better,
probably one
right?
better.
Maybe somewhere out there. Bitterness, I have it a 5. I think it's exactly what I want out of a juicy hazy IPA. Like I said, hazy IPAs to me are typically a lot less bitter. So it kind of hits right on that. And then I can only imagine doing a hazy and juicy, the bitterness is a little bit less, even more so. Acidity, I have it a 5 again because I think the fruitiness is really great with the juicy nature. And
Okay, what
fizz,
did you have it at? I'm sorry, what?
acidity, I have it a
Yeah.
5.
Okay, okay.
And then fizz, I have it a 4. Um, I didn't have a lot of burps, but the head on it when you poured it was plus all the foam, like over time on the
Yeah.
glass and everything. I think it was solid. And the burps were good when I did burp. I only had a couple, but they were good.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, IPAs don't really make me burp very much either. So that brings my total to a 33.
Gotcha. So potentially could have been a 34.
Yes.
Okay. That's not
Before
great.
before your description, it was a 34. Yeah. But I had to take a little bit off on the aftertaste because there was a little bit of a drop off. It wasn't even across the board. So, all right. Well, we have gotten to that point in the podcast where I'm going to tell you to go follow us on social media on Twitter and TikTok at Off the Tap Pod, and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Off the Tap Podcast.
No time for a poem this week because we're running short on time, but I do want to leave you with this little tidbit. Is a potato cider essentially vodka?